All right, everybody, good evening to you. Thank you so much for joining me here at the Atlanta News First Alert Desk. I am Savannah Louie, and we have your top 5 stories for this evening on this wonderful Tuesday night, September 5th. All right, we are going to start off with some news that was just into our newsroom just a couple of hours ago here. We're talking about transgender hormones. They have been a major debate here in the state of Georgia and across the country. But the big news that we're following today, a statewide ban on hormone replacement therapy for transgender people under the age of 18 is allowed to resume. All right, this news just came from the 11th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals. The decision follows a very similar ruling made in Alabama. The Georgia law went into effect back in July, and it allows doctors to prescribe puberty-blocking medications. However, it bans any new patients under 18 years old from starting hormone therapy. It also bans most gender-affirming surgeries for transgender people under 18 as well. So again, that statewide ban on hormone replacement therapy is for transgender people under 18 is allowed to resume once again. That story just into our newsroom within the past couple of hours here. All right, I do want to get you guys caught up on another major story that's been in the works for a number of years now, and it involves a federal case. What we're hearing right now from a federal judge. A judge will soon decide if lawmakers need to redraw political maps here in Georgia, and they would like these maps. Advocates for these maps would they say that they want them to represent the black population, black voters better. A federal hearing started today, and from here I'm going to let our reporter Doug Reardon explain what we can expect.
Between 2010 and 2020, Georgia's black population added almost 400,000 residents, and the state's white population lost around 50,000. But when Georgia's GOP lawmakers led the charge on redrawing political maps in 2021, a majority black district disappeared, along with the black U.S. House lawmaker who held the seat.
Most states, and certainly here across the South, redistricting is very much a political process.
Charles Bullock is a UGA professor who wrote the book Redistricting, the Most Political Activity in America. He said if a federal judge decides in favor of plaintiffs like the American Civil Liberties Union and some religious groups, Georgia lawmakers will likely have to redraw the lines to give black voters more representation as a group.
So he may say, well, over in this part of the state, over here, you could have drawn an additional district. Take a good look at that legislature and see about doing that.
District maps are supposed to take geography and demographics into account. According to the Voting Rights Act of 1965, minority groups have the right to vote as a bloc when there are large populations in certain areas. In fact, on Tuesday, a judge in Alabama sent lawmakers there back to the drawing board over maps that were unfair to black voters.
If you were to swap out, 5, 6 Republicans for Democrats and nothing else were to happen, say in 2024, that could change the balance of power.
With an election coming up in 2024, new maps could shift the balance of power in Congress from Georgia and in other states with challenges to their maps like Louisiana, Florida, and Texas.
That was our Doug Reardon reporting. All right, guys, I want to move straight ahead here to a sad story, which we first brought you last night. You might remember if you were watching our evening news. We learned that a couple of people had been killed in a fatal car accident in East Point. We're now learning those 2 victims were Morehouse students. Today, the Morehouse community remembering the 2 boys who were killed in the crash. You can see their faces up on the screen right there. And there they are. Let me move this so you can see Hugh Douglas and Christian Files Jr. Now, they were both 20 years old. That vigil was held at campus, and the crash that you're looking at here, this was over on Church Street in East Point, Atlanta. We're told by authorities speed was a factor. They haven't shared too much about the circumstances surrounding the crash other than that, but you can see a lot of damage to that vehicle and the surrounding areas. When it comes to the 2 young men, we are told that memorial services are in the works. No word yet on when exactly they are, but as we learn more And as the community remembers, continues to remember, those two young men will, of course, bring you all the latest updates. Another story we are keeping an eye on today that we've been following for quite a while. The Atlanta Public Safety Training Facility, there's always some people who are fired up about anything that has to do with this facility. There have been a number of protests and violent incidents at the facility location, people making their voices heard over the past year. It's really ramped up. And what we're learning today is 61 people have been indicted for what has happened surrounding this facility, for their actions that they say have been in protest of the Atlanta Public Safety Training Facility. You can see here, this is one of those incidents. People causing chaos, throwing explosives, fires in the background here. Most of these protests have been okay, but some, like this, have gotten truly out of hand. Now, the protesters say this indictment is all an effort to prevent them from protesting, which they say is their democratic right. But the Georgia Attorney General says that all these people you see here, well, those are the officers, but the people responsible for these explosives and doing other actions against the training facility, they're all tied to violence and violent acts. All right, we're going to go back in time here. You might remember we told you back in March, some people shot fireworks at police and they set construction equipment just like that on fire. Others were tied to a solidarity fund, which is used to bail people and the protesters out of jail. And the state with that is actually arguing that those people who helped out with that fund helped finance some of these violent acts. There have been 225 illegal incidents, according to authorities. And something else I want to point out here, when you consider that there are more than 60 people who have been involved with this RICO indictment, one of the things lawmakers are saying is that that's a lot of people, they don't actually all have had to know each other or work together. This RICO Act charge, it's really all to group them all together in some sort of organized crime. They don't have to actually know each other one-on-one, person to person, so to speak. This, of course, is a developing story, and as always, we will continue to keep our eye on it. All right, final story I have for you tonight. This is exciting. If you're a traveler like me, flight prices are going down. We have been waiting all year long for this. And it's a good time, too. I know a lot of you might be thinking ahead to some winter travel, but according to the travel app Hopper, the lowest airline prices going into fall are cheaper than they previously were. The analysis found ticket prices for September and October are 29% less expensive than the average prices for the peak domestic summer travel months. Hopefully, that trend continues, as I got my eye personally on Thanksgiving with my family. That's just me, though. I also want to point out international fares are also down. There are some cheaper tickets to Europe, including, get this, American Airlines offering a round-trip fare from New York to Paris this fall for $230. Yeah, that's pretty dang good. I wouldn't mind eating a croissant, staring at the Eiffel Tower. Not a bad way to spend your fall this year. So maybe if you have a little extra PTO, that could be a nice trip for you and your family. Or me. All right, guys, thank you so much for joining me here tonight. Always a pleasure to see you. And with that, we are sending you out with a live look at Lake Lanier. Oh, what a beautiful day to be out on the water. Maybe you got a little sun over the weekend when we had a pretty nice, I almost said perfect. It was just about perfect forecast. Let's bring in our meteorologist, Patrick Pete. Patrick.
Adjust this camera.
I want to show, this is funny. Should we show the height disparity?
I think they already know.
This is the height difference.
This is funny.
How funny is this? I'm usually standing on a box when I do these, but I was like, this is too funny not to share. This is my box that I use. We're having fun today on this Tuesday. All right, and with that, Patrick, I'll let you take it away.
Happy Tuesday, everybody. I hope you guys are having a fantastic evening. The weather has actually been quite nice today. Temperatures hit 90, but I guarantee you didn't really recognize it because that 90 didn't feel too bad. Humidity was in check, so a pretty gorgeous September day, and that's segueing into a pretty solid evening. Let's talk about what's coming down the pipeline. I know a lot of you are probably looking at your yards thinking, Mother Nature going to give me a little bit of rain, or do I need to set this sprinkler system? And these rain chances the next couple of days are very low energy. I don't expect much out of tomorrow. One segment of our state has a decent shot of seeing a shower or two. The rest of us are going to stay mainly dry. And even heading into Thursday, guidance has trended a little bit drier with this front. So this cold front that's going to bring us some slightly cooler air isn't going to bring much in the way of moisture, showers, or storms. So we're keeping the rain chance at 30%, but realistically, if the guidance continues down the pipeline that it's gone through today, we may have to drop that to 20. And then we dry out Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday before another rain chance arrives on Tuesday. Now, there is a level 1 out of 5 risk for strong storms for the northwestern corner of the state for tomorrow. This is not looking like an overwhelming thing. Even with this, a bit of a short wave is going to push through the area. Guidance is showing that short wave weakening as it makes its way into into our state. So I'm not really concerned with widespread impacts here, but here's that hour-by-hour breakdown of your Wednesday, showing you a good mix of sun and clouds for tomorrow morning. So good day to roll down the window, grab the sunglasses. You set yourself up for success whenever you're riding into work and you put yourself in a good mood and you find your zen. So with me, with temperatures in the upper 60s, low 70s, nice little sun beating me in the face, giving me some vitamin D. Turning on my favorite, little playlist for the ride. Mother Nature cooperating. It's a good start to the day. I think that it's going to be a fantastic Wednesday morning drive. Here's a look at that shortwave moving into northwest Georgia around 12 o'clock. You can see that you see those deeper yellows at 12, and I want you to keep your eyes peeled closely on where you see those yellows and the progression of it as we head through the next couple of hours, okay? I'm going to click play in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. As that system pushes into the state, we lose a lot of the yellows and a lot of those darker greens. Those are going to be our better opportunities for rain, our deeper moisture, deeper convection. That indicates that this will be weakening as it pushes through. We'll probably see some clouds move in through the region, but as far as rain, it's going to be very isolated. Still, anything that does fire up, bubble up, there's enough energy out there in the atmosphere that it could become a stronger storm. So we'll be watching for that, not expecting this to be a massive impact. And that's why there is no first alert for tomorrow. Low 70s at the 8 o'clock hour. We'll quickly climb into the mid 80s around lunchtime, and then we'll get into the 90s for a few hours to kick off the second half of the day. Once again, the dew points are going to be a little elevated, but not much worse than today, so still a pretty solid afternoon. Starting off your Thursday morning with temps again near 70, so pretty solid morning drive. 12 o'clock, we'll get into the mid 80s across the region. Another one of those opportunities to pick up on what's happening because those winds are coming out of the northwest at this point. So that means that cold front is pushing through, but we're not seeing those showers and storms bubble up like we would typically see. So at 3 o'clock, you can kind of see some of that happening to the east and south of the city. And you can kind of see where that boundary is east of us at around 6, 7 o'clock. So our better opportunities for rain on Thursday afternoon and evening looks to be east of the I-85 corridor. And guidance has continued to trend a little bit further eastward with this. So folks that are in Athens, Covington, you're going to have the best opportunity to pick up on some rain Thursday, and even that's not looking overwhelming. So I think that we're pretty much all liking this forecast, except for the folks that were looking to save a couple bucks on their sprinkler system doing some of the work. Temperatures covering in the low 90s for the next couple of days. We trend a little bit drier by Friday, meaning those dew points fall, so it will be less humid, pretty comfortable, lots of sun, highs near 90, and your weekend forecast is looking gorgeous. I know a lot of folks got out and about last weekend. If you were in town, you know what treat I'm talking about. If you were out of town, Mother Nature gave us a treat that you missed out on. Gorgeous weather, though, again in the cards for both Saturday and Sunday, trending back into the 90s early next week with a low-end rain chance as we head into Tuesday. We are full steam ahead with the tropics. We've already more than halfway through the name list. The peak of hurricane season is September 10th, so we're less than a week away from the peak, and things have been bubbling up over the course of the last week like crazy, and today is no exception. Earlier today, we had Tropical Depression 13 develop in the Atlantic Basin. We were telling you about this yesterday. We were pretty much sure we would have bet our bottom dollar that we would get a depression today. That happened earlier this afternoon, and as of the 5 o'clock update, that was upgraded to Tropical Storm Lee. Those winds up to 45 miles per hour. It's moving to the west-northwest at 16 miles per hour. If you had plans to go on a cruise or you're heading to the Lesser Antilles, this is about 1,300 miles to the east. Now, the good news, once I show you this track, a lot of the guidance has been curving this out. Looks like it's going to be a little while before it starts to turn north, but we'll get there. Something that's more important, arguably, is going to be this intensity forecast, because that's going to dictate which side of the line this is going to follow. And what we are forecasting is that by Thursday, early morning, we'll probably be dealing with a Cat 1 hurricane. We do expect this to intensify. Right now, you can see it's getting its act together. You can see a well-defined circulation. There's a little bit of dryness on the easternmost side, but we do expect that to remedy itself. Right now, it is in a moderately sheared environment, but over the course of the next day or so, it is going to become less sheared, which means that it's going to have the ability to just go off of the gas that is the deep, warm waters of the open Atlantic, and that is going to allow this system to become a hurricane. Winds should be around 80 miles per hour early Thursday morning, but we do fully expect a rapid intensification cycle with this. We do expect this to become a major hurricane by Friday, and guidance has been hinting at Cat 4 status. And I was actually in the back with Chief Meteorologist Jennifer Valdez, Meteorologist Fred Campagna, a couple of hours ago, and we were looking at some of the experimental models as far as like forecasting the tropics and these tropical systems. And a couple of those models are getting those winds a little bit higher. So we don't ever show any of that stuff on air or even on this platform, because once again, it is experimental models. But we do like to kind of keep an eye on how they do handle these systems. And over the course of time, that'll actually give us a better opportunity to kind of fine tune our forecasting based off of the learned behaviors of some of those models. So not what you probably wanted to hear, but what we are tracking is a system that is pretty much guaranteed to become a major hurricane as we push towards the weekend. This looks to be lifting to the north of the Lesser Antilles, north of Puerto Rico. I do want to put out a word of caution for anybody who is making plans to travel maybe to Puerto Rico or any one of those islands out there. You look at this cone, and a lot of times, because there's a center line where the numbers are enumerated at for you to kind of look at, and the unconventional wisdom to people who are not meteorologists is that that center line means that's the track that we expect it to take, and that's technically not what that means. Just as a quick short course on how models work, and you probably have noticed this just in our regular forecasting when we're forecasting regular weather events. The way that models work, essentially, we take all these different measurements from all of these different ground observations at all of the airports and all these other random places. Then you have all of these airplanes that are flying everywhere, and they're collecting measurements of different levels of the atmosphere, and we ingest all of that into models. And weather models are just these big supercomputers that calculate a bunch of different physics equations and different schemes to calculate radiation and sun and clouds and all of these other different processes that happen in nature naturally. With that being said, the further you get out away from those equations, the more room for error, so to speak, there is. So with these models, the further out you get, that's why that cone gets a little bit larger, because you're further away from the initialization point. So what this is indicating is that this system could go either the southernmost route, the northernmost route, or anywhere in between. Typically, that will get smaller the closer you get to the actual date of impact. So hopefully that explains how this works. Right now, essentially, my whole point of this conversation is to let you know that any outcome is possible within this cone as far as where the system will be on Saturday at 2 o'clock. So reasons enough to watch, especially if you're heading to the islands, but guidance has been trending with a northern pull. So it's really just gonna be how quick it intensifies and how quick it gets swept up into that northerly pull into the northern direction. These are all reasons for you to stay tuned, because we're gonna be going through this data every day. Different models run different hours, of course, but we'll get these updates from the National Hurricane Center as well, and we will keep you updated not only in our newscasts, but we will do that online as well. So I'm going to send you back outside, and then I'm going to pull up the 7-day, but I'm also going to go to YouTube, because I know a lot of you are joining us at home, but some folks are watching us on YouTube. There may be a question or two that I can answer before I let you go. So let's get back to the 7-day, which is right there. There we go. I'll let you screenshot the 7th date in case you need it. And while there are several of you on the call, no one is asking any questions, so that means you guys are all good. And that means that I will also see you guys at 10 o'clock on Peachtree TV, Atlantis CW. Guys, have a great night.